This is a Sales Geek Academia to Business Translation production. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We sift through stacks of research and notes to bring you the absolute key insights. Today, we're tackling something central to almost every sales team: how leaders motivate. Specifically, that common tactic, competition between salespeople. It feels like a natural fit, doesn't it? Sales, competition, they seem to go hand in hand. But the research we've been looking at, it tells a much more complex story. It's really a double-edged sword. So our mission today is to unpack that complexity, turning dense academic stuff into practical, actionable insights for you.
That's spot on. Because, competition can definitely spark amazing performance. But there's also a pretty significant risk. It can lead to exhaustion, even real burnout if it's not managed just right. And what's really interesting is a recent study in the Journal of Personal Selling and Sales Management. It kind of pulls back the curtain, reveals some, surprising truths about when competition genuinely motivates, and crucially, when it actually does more harm than good. So this deep dive, it's all about understanding that critical balance. It's often overlooked.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We're talking about something specific: competition-inducing leadership, or CIL. Now, when we hear that, maybe we think of those big formal sales contests, right, with prizes and leaderboards. But the research defines CIL as something broader. What exactly are these leader behaviors, the ones designed to, stir up competition between employees?
Yeah, you've hit a key point there. It's often much more subtle, more pervasive than just those formal contests. CIL means basically any leader behavior that aims to stimulate that interpersonal competition, where, one person's win might mean another person doesn't achieve as much. It's less about the prize structure, really, and more about the day-to-day interactions that build up that rivalry.
And the sources gave some really clear, kind of real-world examples of this, didn't they? It's not just theory. What sort of things did they highlight?
They did, yeah. It can be pretty direct, like a leader publicly praising one employee, maybe even subtly criticizing another just to make a point, or, openly sharing performance rankings across the whole team.
Yeah.
But it also gets into the more nuanced stuff, the unspoken dynamics. For instance, a leader might actually tell employees, hey, view each other as competitors. Or, more subtly, foster a rivalry, maybe by putting multiple people on the exact same task, making it a direct race. One leader in this study was quite open about it, saying, and this is a quote, "I mentioned those who go the extra mile." Others notice that these salespeople are appreciated by the boss, and that brings some subtle competition.
Wow.
And another leader shared this quote, "It really captures that daily pressure." Take him as an example. He's only been here a couple of weeks, and he's making this turnover. You see, it's rarely just about hitting your own number.
Yeah, it's about hitting it better than the colleague next to you. That last quote really brings it home. It's not the sales contest of the month thing. It's like woven into the daily management style. And this isn't some rare approach either, is it? The research found it's actually pretty common.
Oh, absolutely. A preliminary survey mentioned in the study found, a staggering 68.3% of sales leaders admitted they use CIL. And looking at it from the employee's side, 50.5% reported their supervisors actively encourage competition within their teams.
Half the employees.
Yeah. So this isn't some fringe tactic. It's deeply ingrained in how a lot of sales orgs work. And to your earlier point, it's not just about the big prizes. It's often informal, almost atmospheric, just part of how leadership operates. It's also really important to get that CIL is seen as a distinct leadership behavior. It's not quite the same as transactional leadership, rewards and punishments, or transformational leadership, which is more about inspiring and motivating vision. CIL is specifically about fostering that internal rivalry, peer against peer.
Okay, so we've got this common leadership style, and our gut reaction, especially in sales, is probably competition. Good. Drives results.
Right.
But here's where it gets, really interesting, and maybe a bit counterintuitive. This research says it's not that simple. So what are the potential upsides of CIL when it actually works well? Because clearly, sometimes it does.
You're right. There are definite benefits sometimes. When it's applied effectively, CIL can be incredibly stimulating. It can feel like joyful gamification was the phrase used. Makes tasks more engaging, less boring. It gives direct, immediate feedback. Employees see exactly where they stand. They get positive role models.
Like a clear benchmark.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A clear benchmark. One sales employee put it really well. "I really like when they leaders let us compete, because it makes us go beyond our limits, get out of our comfort zone so that we learn something new and get ahead." So it genuinely pushes people, fosters learning, engagement, and surprisingly, it can actually clarify performance expectations, reducing role ambiguity. You know precisely what success looks like compared to your peers.
That sounds like the dream scenario, really. Pushing limits, learning, clear goals. It's what every leader wants. But like we said at the start, it's that double-edged sword. So what's the other side? The potential harm CIL can cause.
Right, this is where it gets tricky. While the upsides are there for some, CIL can exert huge performance pressure. And this, maybe predictably, can stir up significant negative emotions. It can really drag down job satisfaction. When people are constantly trying to outperform their colleagues, vying for that recognition, it can create these intense rivalries. That fosters mental stress, physiological arousal, potentially leading to what the study calls real burnout. We're talking sustained emotional exhaustion here.
Real burnout. That sounds serious, a really heavy consequence. And it brings us back to that crucial question. What makes the difference? What decides if CIL is that joyful game or, a path straight to exhaustion? Is it just down to the individual employee, or is there more going on?
It's definitely about individual differences, but also the context. Absolutely. A leader interviewed for the study put it very bluntly. Not every employee feels that. There are some who want this challenge, and there are also many who don't. A leader needs to recognize that, because if he or she doesn't, the leader will lose the team.
Wow, that's a stark warning.
It is a profound insight right there. The impact isn't universal. It's highly individual. Depends on specific factors.
That's key. Okay, so if it's not one size fits all, how do we figure out who thrives under CIL and who just struggles? The research pointed to two critical factors that really shape CIL's impact. Let's unpack the first one: extrinsic motivational orientation. EMO. What does that actually mean for you listening, for the sales leaders out there?
EMO, yeah. Put simply, it's how much an employee is driven by those external rewards. We're talking about things like getting a public recognition, maybe monetary bonuses, or just the sheer satisfaction of outperforming others. It's about that external validation. There was a great quote from a leader in the study that really captures this. Even if it's just for a flower pot, the moment something is at stake, it's about honor and recognition. I can win something, and it is made public. That is the key factor from my point of view.
Oh, okay.
So that speaks directly to those people who genuinely crave that competition and external validation. They're kind of wired for it.
That makes perfect sense for some salespeople we all know. And the second factor. This one feels incredibly relevant right now. Role overload or RO?
It absolutely is. Role overload, or RO, just describes that feeling of having way too much work to do in the time you have. Or maybe just feeling unable to cope with all the job requirements. It's that pervasive feeling of being overwhelmed.
Drowning in tasks.
Exactly. Drowning. And the context here is pretty stark. Studies suggest 57% of salespeople feel their workload is higher than their capacity. And 67%, two-thirds, work longer hours than they're contracted for.
Wow.
So when we connect this to the bigger picture, using something called the job demands resources model, CIL can be either a job resource, something stimulating, helps you achieve goals, or it can be a job demand, something exhausting that just drains your energy. And its effect, it really hinges on that interplay between the employee's EMO, their drive for external rewards, and their current level of RO, role overload.
Wow, those numbers on role overload are really something. I mean, we've all felt swamped sometimes, but to think nearly two-thirds of salespeople are consistently working beyond capacity, that really puts a different perspective on pushing them harder with competition, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So knowing all this, what does it actually mean for when CIL works? When does it hit that sweet spot? Because it sounds like the conditions have to be pretty specific.
They really do. The research paints a very clear picture of this sweet spot. We could call it a narrow corridor where CIL genuinely boosts positive stimulation. It only happens if the salesperson has high GH extrinsic motivational orientation and DILI low W role overload.
Both have to be true.
Both. Think about it. They want to compete. They're driven by those external rewards, and critically, they have the time, the mental space, the resources to actually engage in that competition productively.
And succeed.
They have the capacity to push their limits and actually enjoy doing it.
Okay, so it's that perfect storm, wanting to win and having the energy to actually go for it. But what about the other scenarios? Because it really sounds like that narrow corridor might be the exception, not the rule. What happens in the maybe more common situations?
You're right, that narrow corridor is crucial to understand because CIL actually increases emotional exhaustion in most other cases. Let's break those down. If an employee have low extrinsic motivational orientation and low role overload, well, they're just not interested in the external rewards or the competition itself. So even if they have the capacity, they find CIL draining because it just doesn't align with what motivates them. It's not stimulating, it's just an unwelcome pressure.
Right. So for them, it's not even about being overwhelmed. It's just fundamentally not their thing. What about the salesperson who is highly motivated but totally swamped?
Ah, yes. That's the scenario of high extrinsic motivational orientation, A&D, high role overload. These are the people who want to compete. They're driven by outperforming others. They'd love to jump in, but they're completely overwhelmed. They just don't have the mental or physical resources left to succeed in that competition. And this mismatch leads directly to exhaustion, not motivation. They want to engage, but they can't. That internal conflict, it leads to burnout.
That sounds like such a tough spot for the employee and for the leader trying to motivate them. It's like having the desire, but zero energy.
Okay, and then the last scenario, low motivation and high overload.
Indeed. The case of low extrinsic motivational orientation and high role overload. Now, this is still a negative situation for the employee, obviously, but the study found CIL's direct effect on exhaustion here was actually less significant than in the previous case.
Less significant, how so?
Well, if you think about it, it kind of suggests these employees are already so overwhelmed and, frankly, uninterested in the competition anyway, that the leader's competitive push might almost, well, pass them by. They've got bigger fish to fry, more pressing concerns. The competitive stuff just doesn't register as a major additional stressor.
Ah, okay. It's almost like they've hit their stress ceiling already. Something like that. Like their mental bandwidth is just maxed out elsewhere. But ultimately, the downstream effects are really clear across all these scenarios. Positive stimulation. That leads to higher job satisfaction and lower intention to quit. Good outcome. Emotional exhaustion. That leads to lower job satisfaction and, no surprise, a higher intention to quit. Bad outcome. And job satisfaction itself, it directly reduces that intention to quit.
That's powerful. It really maps out the high stakes involved here. So let's bring it back. What does all this mean for you, the sales leader listening right now? You're trying to get the absolute best from your team, but you don't want to burn them out or, worse, lose them. This research isn't just theory, right? It offers clear, practical guidance you can actually use.
Exactly. This isn't about saying never use competition. It's about using it much more wisely, like a precision instrument. So here are 3 key takeaways for sales leaders straight from this research. First, CIL is a precision tool, not a blunt instrument. Use it cautiously, deliberately, and only with salespeople who are both highly receptive to extrinsic motivation, A&D are not currently experiencing high role overload.
That narrow corridor again?
Precisely. It means individual assessment is crucial. It's not a team-wide thing. You really need to know who on your team thrives on that public recognition and rivalry, and you need to be sure they have the bandwidth, the mental space to engage productively. Second takeaway, you need to develop a really precise understanding of your team's individual capacity and motivations. Leaders, maybe surprisingly, often underestimate the negative impact of CIL. The study found only about 1 in 4 leaders realized CIL could lead to burnout.
Only 1 in 4.
Yeah. And only 1 in 6 knew it could actually make employees want to quit. That highlights a pretty critical blind spot, wouldn't you say?
You need, and I'm quoting the study's emphasis here, precise and comprehensive knowledge about your individual employees' psychological needs and current work strain. This isn't just knowing who your top performers are. It's knowing who gets fired up by outperforming others. And just as importantly, knowing who is already swamped and at risk. And third, recognize CIL's unique pressure. It's often inescapable. Unlike maybe a formal sales contest, which might feel voluntary, or maybe employees feel like they can sit it out, that bystander effect. Leader-induced competition often involves direct personal pressure. Leaders use their authority. They push employees into these competitive behaviors, even when it might go against what that employee actually needs for their well-being at work. So the takeaway is, if you see high workload, if you see signs of role overload, seriously consider holding back on CIL. Even for those extrinsically motivated stars, protect them from burnout. Prevent that turnover. It's about protecting your talent long term.
That's incredibly practical advice. It really shifts the whole approach, doesn't it? From just, blanket competition to something much more tailored, empathetic even. So the final thought for you listening, given that CIL can be a flexible tool, how can you integrate this deeper understanding, this awareness of individual needs, individual capacity into your daily leadership? How do you make sure you're inspiring top performance without risking the well-being of your team or, heartbreakingly, losing that top talent you've worked so hard to find and develop?
I think it really boils down to creating an environment where competition is a strategic choice for those who genuinely thrive on it. and where support and managing workload are absolutely paramount for those who don't, or those who are just too overwhelmed at that moment. It's about building a team where everyone can succeed, maybe on their own terms, not just by constantly out-competing the person sitting next to them.
This has been another Sales Geek Academia to Business Translation production.